Well, it's time to look back on events in the Isle of Man in April this year. With me is Juan Turner, who's at the day of recording this, is having a good old pop at the government again. Now, it's quite interesting that you're outside now looking in, and we'll come to that in a bit. But now, you know, the days of being an MLC are over. You're back in the day job. A broadcaster, I think, is probably your best sort of summing up. And you've obviously been giving information at this committee looking at public service. But let's rewind to events in the Isle of Man that you want to talk about this month. We're going to start with the Commonwealth Games.
Yeah, I mean, thanks for inviting me to talk about the month in the news, Paul. It's great to be here. And yeah, I think we should start off with a really great story, because I was fortunate enough to be out covering the Commonwealth Games and went up to see Tim Neal compete and be awarded the silver.
Fantastic, wasn't it?
It was great, and it was a fantastic day there as well. And when you were watching him shoot in the heat, you really knew that he was on for this. I mean, he was seriously on for it. I mean, his final heat, it was just every single clay was being hit. It was fantastic to watch.
It's such a shame it's not going to be in the next Commonwealth Games at the minute.
Well, there's been one almighty hoo-ha about that. If you read some of the forums, the Birmingham, who are taking over the Games next time, in 4 years' time, there's been an awful lot of opposition to the fact that they haven't got shooting in the next Games, which I think is going to be a great shame.
Okay, well that one's done. Good news for us on that. But you know, you see a lot of negatives going on. And I know, I say you've got a blog that you're quite often doing. In fact, the day of recording this, I know we're now talking about today's stuff, but you do have a sort of pessimistic outlook at the way that we're going. And any stories particularly that
absolutely
back this up?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you've only got to look. Do you remember the interview we did back in October, I think it was, and everybody was like, oh, shock horror, he's saying all these things.
Yeah.
They're coming home to roost. But it's not just me saying some of these things. You know, Bill Shimmons has said it in Tynwald as well. And I mentioned this in Tynwald myself. You know, sometimes you think that they're either sleepwalking or they're asleep at the wheel. They're seeing things, or they're not seeing things coming down towards them. Because everything's great, everything's rosy. And we have this government machine now, a whole department of spin doctors who, whenever there's something slightly negative, they have to tell everybody everything's great. Don't worry, everything's great.
Well, I mean,
you can't look like that. You've got to look at what's coming down the road.
Well, the TV licences came back. That happened, of course. That the over 75 is now going to be looked after.
Yeah. Now, again, I had to go about this because, you know, we shouldn't be congratulating ourselves over this, because it shouldn't have happened in the first place. For people watching, they may think, that's great, we've negotiated free licences for over 75s. Well, that's only because the previous government told the UK government not to include the Isle of Man. I mean, you couldn't make it up.
Really?
Why on earth would the government tell the UK that we don't want to be part of the scheme of the BBC funding licences for the over 75s?
Okay.
So that's why we ended up with that farcical situation where it was taken away. Then there was the scheme cobbled together by the Treasury where over 75s could pay for them and then claim it back. I mean, that was a complete nonsense for a start off. And now we've gone back and we've actually negotiated what we were offered in the first place. As I said, you couldn't make it up.
Okay, what else have you... I mean, broadcasting's in your thing, so should we deal with it? You give evidence yourself.
We can talk a bit about that, but I mean, you know, it's a bit self-indulgent, isn't it, to come on here and talk about broadcasting? But there is the committee going on.
And you gave quite challenging testimony as far as the future of BBC taking over Manx Radio, or being the public service broadcaster anyway.
Yeah, well, I mean, let's pick out all the sort of the chaff and all the bits around the outside and centre on what they're looking at. They're looking at public service broadcasting. Now, the Isle of Man, forget 3FM, forget Energy FM and all the other little interests.
Which we should state in case everyone doesn't know that you are at Mr. Energy FM.
Well, yeah, I've always got that tag, but
yeah.
We're not talking about that. What we're talking about is public service broadcasting. What we're doing today is public service broadcasting. Now, we have a public service broadcaster, which we all pay for via the licence fee, assuming you got a licence, and it's the BBC, and it covers all the nations: Scotland, England, Wales, Northern Ireland, the Channel Islands and the Isle of Man. And we all know the history, or for those who don't know the history, the Isle of Man had Manx Radio set up in the 60s, and that's the reason the BBC never came here. They didn't need to. There was already a service in operation. So all these other areas of the British Isles got the service. The Isle of Man never. So we've been funding this service for many, many years through taxes, and paying a licence fee, where you compare to the Channel Islands, I mean, they've got a fantastic setup.
As a young lad, I do remember the Channel Islands. I think it was the States of Jersey came over to look at Manx Radio. Took one look at the idea that the government would end up paying for it, and they went for the BBC, I think.
Well, of course they did, because they thought, hang on, we're going to be paying for this.
Yeah.
So, I mean, again, it's another situation where it's effectively, I think, it's more of a vanity project. Why shouldn't the BBC? They run a fantastic local radio service. It's one of the best services you can have in all the areas where it's on the air.
And you recommended the committee should go and look at the Channel Islands.
Yeah, I mean, if they're doing a proper report and investigation into public service broadcasting, then they should go and have a look at it, because that's what they're trying to find out more details on. Why would you not go and look at it? We make big play on we're a Crown dependency, we're not UK, we're unique, and the only other place that's unique like us is Jersey and Guernsey. So why would they not go and have a look to see what's being offered there? Now, I'm not suggesting that we would end up with the full TV and everything else, but whilst there's a question mark over the funding of public service broadcasting and Manx Radio, then wouldn't it be obvious to look into the possibility of Manx Radio being transferred to the BBC to operate?
Are you anti-Manx Radio? I mean, Ron Berry, employees. I'm an ex-employee, that sort of thing. Are you just?
Well, I don't think it's anti-Manx Radio. I think if anything, it's pro-Manx Radio, because having worked there, if you think about the resources we had back in our day, Paul, if you were there now and you had the prospect of becoming part of the world's biggest and most trusted broadcaster, no matter what people think of the BBC.
But they bring their own people in, wouldn't they?
Well, no, they don't bring their own people in.
No, I mean, like they would hire and fire what's up there now. I mean, obviously, it could be a different setup to what's up there now.
Well, it might well be, but at the end of the day, if you've got broadcast staff on your books, you need them to be able to perform. So, if they're not cutting the grain in any business, they're gone, aren't they? But what an opportunity if you were there now, or we were there now, if there was scope about becoming part of the world's biggest broadcaster.
Yeah, well,
so it's not anti. In fact, if anything, it's a fantastic opportunity.
I put it to you, I don't think it's going to happen, though.
Well, of course it's not going to happen, because, I likened it that in government, you moot the idea. I think the Chief Minister said he was broadly in favour of it. But you've got other people who, the British Broadcasting Corporation, we can't have that. So it's a bit like putting a Remainer in charge of going to negotiate Brexit.
People will be watching this saying, he's come out of government. I mean, now he's full of it all. He didn't say anything when he's inside.
I said plenty when I was inside. And every time you said something when you were on the inside, you were told, you shouldn't be saying that, you can't say that, you can't say this.
I think I actually lost some MHK material in the future. You got that in you to put the wrongs to rights?
Well, the system at the moment, and again, I'm not saying anything. People going on about, why didn't you say this when you're inside? Well, I did. Plenty of times. Some of the debates, have been quite fiery. They never get reported. Because at the end of the day, you're sitting through 9 hours of what the public might think is utter drivel. And then you get to a good debate, which is normally sort of 8:30 at night when everybody's watching Coronation Street. No one's interested. Even the journalists have gone home.
Well, it's been fascinating to talk to you. We probably have lots of other things.
There's loads of other things.
Yeah, but anyway, now you're available.
I didn't want to talk about broadcasting. I want to talk about the monthly news.
It happened. Well, anything else you want to talk about? I mean,
Well, you said it's strictly speaking, it's April, isn't it? I mean, we've got the abortion bill.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a very, very big.
And that would have landed on your plate now, of course. MLCs are looking at it next.
Yes. Again, it's been rumbling on for over 12 months, and you have an observation on what's been going on with that. There's been lots of moves to have the bill sent to committees, and a lot of people saying, oh, well, it needs to be right. Well, actually, what they're trying to do is they're doing the Gina Miller effect. They're trying to thwart it, aren't they? I think the way Dr. Anson has handled this has been absolutely superb. That's exactly what an MHK is there to do, isn't it?
He's got some gravitas, that man, hasn't he?
Yeah.
He just seems to have that thing that he says something and people really do listen to it.
But he goes about it the right way. I mean, if you saw the way he introduced the bill, there was a lot of consultation early on. It was not rushed by any means. Drafts went out to public consultation. There was a huge public response, more than I've seen in anything in the 10 years I was there. And then, of course, it's progressed. And rather than rush it through in the 3 readings that they have in the chamber, it was done in very, very small chunks over a long period of time. That's the way legislation should be developed.
And we continue that conversation because it's not yet finished, of course.
No, that's right. It will go to the upper house, which I hope will deal with it in a way that the upper house is there to do, and that is to look at the technical side of the bill. You know, the principles have been debated. That's what the House of Keys is for. They decide the policy. The upper house is there to make sure it works.
Very quickly, I know it's probably happened in this month rather than last month, this sudden rush to London to sort out the future of the Isle of Man and transparency and private in the public domain as far as who owns what. Your views? Did the Chief Minister, because their spin is that the Chief Minister here had a lot to do with that, or certainly had to go to London to help out, or, you know, by putting the voice of the Isle of Man in there. Your comments quickly?
Well, yeah, of course he did, and you know he did the best job he could. It was a great result for him. He went there, he achieved what he wanted to do when he set out. The bigger picture, I think, is that we haven't heard the last of this, because the overseas territories, who have been effectively legislated for, are not happy at all. If you look at a lot of these governments, they're publishing things on their own news feeds, so we certainly haven't heard the last of it. Meanwhile, Labour, of course, are still pushing for more and more control over the Crown dependencies. So whilst at the moment it's a victory in the short term, I think there's a lot more to come on this.
And you write your blog. I call it a rant. You said it's a blog every few days, weeks, whatever. So do follow it on it's Facebook. You put on, isn't it?
No, well, it's only. I haven't got a public profile on there. It got people.
It's just a friend.
It got people too excited, and
this man needs a job in some sort of. You know, in the media again, like doing this sort of thing. You
maybe
enjoy
on
this?
LBC or something. You know, I could balance things up on there. But no, seriously, I like to comment on what things are. I believe you've got to say what you mean, and it's unfortunate some people take offence to that. Really, you want to have good, robust discussions.
Mr. Turner's back,
and
after being gagged. I think you used that term.
Yeah,
it was gagging for 10 odd years. But
it's amazing.
You're going to cause waves. You're going to be a bit of a pain.
I don't think so, but I think you've got to be honest, haven't you, about these things? You know, the fact is that some of the things we discussed back in October that everybody was so horrified about are coming home now. We've just recently found this week that, there's a massive hole in the numbers of young people who aren't coming back here. They can't come back here because the job prospects are low. They haven't got a cat in hell's chance of buying a house, property, starting a family, and all the things a lot of people want to do. And rather than us, say everything's rosy in the garden, we've got to tackle it. And if me saying that is to their dislike, then I'm sorry. But Bill Shimmons was right. They are asleep at the wheel. They need to tackle it. They need to look at why. And taxing people to death through all these stealth charges is not how you're going to get young people to come back to the island.
Okay. To be continued, as they say.
Absolutely.